Hi, everyone. Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. And today I have with me Erin Moger with Profit First Professionals. Now, this is someone that I've worked with for a few years now. She is our contact there at Profit First Professionals. And one of the things that I really appreciate is her commitment, dedication, and follow through. She's definitely someone that I've always been able to rely upon. And so, Erin, it's a pleasure to have you here today for this discussion that we're going to be having. This is going to be kind of fun. I look forward to this.
Me too, Roger. I'm excited.
Now, the topic that we have on hand is how to establish a profitable business from the get-go as an entrepreneur. So let's see what we have here as a story for you to share.
Yeah, actually, I will start out with my story because it's where I got my passion and my purpose, where I genuinely believe. We all kind of look at entrepreneurs and we see this glorified lifestyle. Have you ever wondered, though, why some entrepreneurs are so successful and financially comfortable while others aren't? I was a kid, and I was sitting at a dining room table eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with my family in the dark, contemplating this question because we couldn't afford electricity and we couldn't afford anything else to eat. My dad was an extremely successful chief technology officer in New York City when he finally scratched his entrepreneurial itch. The one that's like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. I could be financially free. I could have balance in my life. And he finally did it. He finally went off, did his own thing. And he did really, really well until he didn't. All the contracts that he was reliant on to grow his business dried up. And with that, our household income, our cash flow. And before we knew it, we were going through cycles regularly of not being able to pay our electricity bill. And when we finally had money to do it, we were paying 3 months behind. And forget about next month's. I hated it. I hated watching what this did to my dad. Because even in our best state, not being able to provide for your family, it wears on you. I hated watching the stress age him. And it was about the worst time that we experienced as a family when I took my first accounting class. I loved it. I loved the balance of things and the puzzle of things. It was like this harmonious orchestra of purpose, but mystery, right? But it gave me hope. I saw accounting as a way of taking information that maybe my dad was lacking in his decision-making process that could potentially eliminate some of the pits that we were experiencing as a family and give him insight to make decisions so that we wouldn't be in this cycle anymore. Maybe it could break the cycle. So I went to school for accounting. My dad gave me my heart for entrepreneurs. Accounting gave me hope. And Profit First has truly become the vessel in which we can take the understanding of the finances and bring it into a platform that works not just logically, but in conjunction with how we naturally function as humans, right? So my name is Erin Moger, as Roger said. I am a Profit First guide at Profit First Professionals. My job there is really to train and support Profit First professionals in the implementation of Profit First. It's a book by Mike Michalowicz, a CAP methodology that works again with our behavioral tendencies to hopefully wire us and bring success to our businesses. And with that success, peace and prosperity and financial freedom, not just for our lives, for ourselves today, but we're looking to impact generations to come. We want to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty in a big, big way.
Excellent. Now, one of the things that I want to do here is first of all, thank you for sharing that story, because I think too many people can actually relate to it. And one of the things that I think is phenomenal is many of the people listening to this will actually be accountants who either personally are experiencing that themselves as they're operating their own business. But at the same time, with clients, you find so many clients that are actually in that situation of, although they are in business, they're going through that very same experience that you're sharing of your father and your family. And one of the things that I think is challenging is, as accountants, one of the things that we have is in front of us these numbers, these financials that are telling this story. And for us, oftentimes we can see the pain because we can see how the numbers aren't coming together. And it's basically someone's passion and enthusiasm that's just not paying off yet. And what we want to do is definitely help them excel and succeed so that they can actually kind of live their dream of doing what they love best and doing it profitably.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we exist. It's actually, it's even worse than you think. I mean, if we were in a room full of people, if you look to your left and your right, only one of you would survive at the end of 5 years. According to Forbes, the statistics are 83% of small businesses, they don't make it to their 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
And if they make it, they're not profitable. The majority are not profitable. And it's awful. And we're here today to diminish some of the expectations, some of the false realities that we've been reliant on. You know, we as a society, we're addicted to axioms. We're addicted to things that are deemed to be true because previous generations said so. I mean, we're all familiar with the world is flat, right? We all know the story of how a philosopher, Pythagorean, right? Not the theorem, Pythagorean, but he came in 6 BC and he's sitting there probably drinking coffee, watching the sun come and go and boats shift into the horizon and come back. When he finally said, you know, guys, that's weird. You know, they don't seem to be falling off the face of the earth. I can't see them, but they're coming back. So maybe, just maybe the world is round. And a simple challenge to what was deemed to be true, you know, it sounds ridiculous, but people died. They were stoned to death for challenging it. But there's actually an axiom that is devastating entrepreneurs and crushing the financial well-being of households today. And it's one that we're taught pretty much in our first business class. I remember learning this in 8th grade. We learn it in our accounting classes. We learn it throughout our lives. I mean, and if you have a piece of paper, I mean, before we get started, one of the things that I'd love to do is, you know, if I were a business owner today and I wanted to pay you for your services as an accountant, bookkeeper, coach, whatever you might be doing, if I gave you $1,000, how would you spend that in your business if it were revenue? Right? The axiom that is devastating entrepreneurs, businesses, and everything alike is this belief, this equation of sales minus expenses equals profit. Sales minus expenses equals profit. It's a logical system, but that's just the problem. We're not logical. It's not behavioral. It's actually detrimental. If we are bringing all this money in, I mean, like I said, if you have a piece of paper and a pen and you write down, if I made $1,000, how would it be spent in my business? You're going to pay for everything you need. And if you have money left over, yeah, you might put it in savings. You could say you're profitable. But do you ever have money left over?
But that's the challenge, is if there's anything left over. I think one of the things that we're doing here is we're recognizing that in business, there's too much that we're leaving to chance, and we're not being deliberate or intentional with profit. And so what we need to do is recognize that this formula you're sharing here is setting us up for struggle, for disappointment, for challenges. And it's not putting priority first. I mean, sales, that's first, but is really the expenses the second priority? It's got to be something different than that, because expenses is everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, this is a functioning formula, but it's not functioning in conjunction to what our natural tendencies are. So what we're going to do, and I don't know if you have a pen and paper in front of you, but if you do, I encourage you, write it down and scribble it out. Just go through the process of eliminating the power that it has over your mind and your life, and write down instead sales minus profit equals expenses. A simple tweak to the formula shifts it from this logical existence to a behavioral formula that allows us to change our mindset and therefore how we function with our money. Profit is the lifeline of our business. It was what allows us to have freedom. This is what we're desperate to experience for that balance in our finances, for the balance in our lives. Simply changing how we function in our finances by changing how we focus in our finances can really change the game. And this is just one small tweak, but profoundly simple game changer.
You know, one of the things that I want to share with this is the previous formula. What it does is it robs us in business of the ability to enjoy the thing that we're passionate about. What this formula does here, sales minus profits equal expenses, is it enables us to remain engaged in what we're so excited to be doing. And so if we're able in our business to make sure that the profit is there, we're enabling ourselves to then do this again and again and again in the future. Whereas if before we left profit to chance and we were leaving it as this wished upon thing, all we're doing is is speculating whether or not we're going to continue with the thing that we're so passionate about. So this formula it's revolutionary. It truly is.
Yeah, it's really simple, and you're not changing the integrity of the information. You're just generating it in a way that works in conjunction with our natural wiring. Actually, there's a lot of things, and my goal today is to share. I want you to hear a couple of things that we have seen be impactful, not just for our accountants and bookkeepers and coaches that we work with, but I mean, there are troops on the ground. They're bringing this to entrepreneurs everywhere in all different industries with the intention of bringing financial freedom and understanding. There's freedom and clarity in being able to make decisions. So what I'd love to share with you is just a couple of tips and tricks, minor adjustments, again, to just our functioning flow in our finances that can impact the well-being as a whole. And they're all small steps. But the first one is actually smaller plates. A lot of these are actually comparables to the health and wellness industry. And we're gonna talk a little bit of health and wellness. It's probably not a bad time of year to do it, but we're also going to take this and use it in conjunction with our finances. How do the two kind of coexist? The first one, like I said, is small plates. One of the reasons why sales minus expenses equals profit is so detrimental is because of this theory called Parkinson's law. Okay, it's not like the disease. Parkinson's is another philosopher, I guess you could say. He took the concept of Parkinson's law, and he kind of looked at the theory and said, hey, you know what? Humans, they use their resources in accordance to what they have available to them. Think about your time. If you have 2 weeks to do a project, how long do you think it's going to take you to do a project?
2 weeks.
If you have a bank account full of money, how much money do you think you're going to use? Right?
All of it.
A great example, and you can see here is, there's a nice big slab of toothpaste. We can all relate to toothpaste, I hope. You have a brand new tube of toothpaste. You're going to be slathering on your toothbrush, right? Things are great. You're living the lavish life, toothpaste all over. A couple weeks go by, it's halfway gone. Maybe you'll start shifting to the bead, right? A couple more weeks go by, you'll be content with a schmear, right? Another 2 weeks go by, you keep on forgetting at the grocery store, you're cutting the tube open. You're getting anything you can possibly get out of there because it's imperative, right? Small plates, Parkinson's law, they work in conjunction with each other. You think about being a kid. I ate a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like I told you. But I was raised, Clean Plate Club is not just a glorious achievement, it's an expectation. You don't waste, right? But since 1960, did you know that the average dinner plate has grown 3 inches in diameter? Why do you think our waistlines have grown just as much? The average waistline, right? We are wired to consume in relation to what is available to us, right? It's no different from our dinner plates. You want to lose weight, start putting your food on a smaller plate. You're going to be more satisfied with less. Think about your bank accounts. You have a full bank account that you're going to and looking at regularly. When you think about the entrepreneur, I would love to live in a world where they were printing out their P&L or at least logging into QuickBooks Xero, Sage, whatever, to identify what their P&L looks like and their balance sheet looks like before they make decisions. The reality is they're not. They're going to their bank account. If their bank account says things are good, guess what? They're spending like things are good, even if all those resources are already intended for some other responsibility, right? This is where it gets dangerous. We spend in accordance to what we have available to us. So a great technique, a simple one that we can start today, is instead of eating off that giant dinner plate that we have in our bank account, maybe what if we took a common discipline that our grandmothers used and applied it to our businesses, right? I mean, my mom always did this, but she used to take money aside and she would put it intentionally into envelopes. Money would come into our household. Money would go for our gas. Money would go for our electricity until we didn't have any money for it. Money would go towards our food, right? That's how we identified where money would go. And if you ran out, guess what? No more electricity, right? The same is true with our finances, right? we use it in our finances. How can we take that and turn it into a 2009 version that's functional and going to bring more insight into our lives? Instead of us using envelopes, what Profit First does, what the Profit First CAF methodology does, is it takes bank accounts and it adjusts that big, huge serving tray that we make all of our decisions in, and it breaks it down into prioritizations, things that we are focusing on. We're making envelopes for our spending. We're taking that guesswork and we're bringing intentionality. So you want to talk about how you can bring more intention into your business, into your spending. A great way to do that is separate it out. Instead of functioning off of one big, huge dinner tray, have your 4 servings. In Profit First, we have 5 bank accounts, 5 main bank accounts. We have an income account. This is where every dollar of revenue that you make goes in here. We watch that build, okay? At appropriate times, we allocate it into 4 other bank accounts. And these are really strategic, okay? The first one is our profit, hence Profit First, right? The second one is our owner's pay. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've spoken to that will share that they haven't paid themselves in years. And your heart sinks and you think, oh my gosh, what homeless shelter are you living in? Are you okay? Right? You shouldn't be last either. Profit shouldn't be last, but you should never be last, right? Then we have our tax. I mean, this account, more than any other one, this one brings people to tears. There's nothing more glorious than having money build up to pay that responsibility. I mean, when the tax man comes knocking, if you can write a check and wash your hands clean of that, that's freedom, right? And then we have our operating expenses. Now, the beauty of it being structured in this format is, just like the tube of toothpaste, you start to have a little less in your tube, you become a little bit more creative, a little bit more inventive. A lot of times we look at our operating expenses, we look at our accounts and we think, oh my gosh, I need it. I need it. I need it. I need it. There's no way I can live without it. Maybe. I believe you probably, actually. I mean, we've been in that boat before too. And when I say me, I mean Mike Michalowicz, Ron Sahara, and they make the money decisions, right? But we were at a point where we were starting up and didn't have a lot of resources towards specific things. I remember one time in particular, we needed new computers. That's a big fat need. There were 4 of us that were in the office at that point. And our computers were just slow. They were awful. We looked at our bank account, okay, there's money in there. We could probably buy computers if we really wanted to. But here's the thing, that money was already intended for something else. Yeah, we could look at our profit and say, oh yeah, there's money in there. We could go to a line of credit. We could get a loan to buy computers because they're in need, right? But here's the thing. When you start to restrict yourself, when you're limiting yourself to different resources, you start to think outside the box. Yeah, we could do all those things, but guess what? You didn't. We put an ad out. Hey, we need new computers. It took a week before we had an answer to our ad. A local corporation was actually moving to California and they weren't bringing their resources with them, right? So instead of us spending, probably $6,000 to get computers and monitors for the entire office, we were able to get dual monitors for every person in the office for $25 each and a computer for $50 a piece. We got computers for the entire office for $600. When, yeah, we needed them. It makes sense for us to invest in computers. But did we really need brand new? Did we really need to spend all that money straight out the gate? Sometimes just bringing ourselves back, looking at what we have available, bringing intentionality to the conversation can change the game. I mean, Mike did this in his manufacturing business. I mean, it doesn't just allow you to innovate within your resources, but it also can change your industry. Mike, he was an investor. If you guys have not read Profit First, there's a story in there about how he works with the Leatherworks company. He's worked with them forever. They had a piece of equipment that kaplunked, right? And when you're dealing with big manufacturers, I mean, pieces of equipment that kaplunk, that's no little to do. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. They, of course, had an account specific to build up the revenue to be able to purchase equipment should this happen, but life happens and it happened earlier than they expected. So again, they could go to their credit line. They could take a look at the accounts that they had available to them. They could go and get a loan, but they didn't. Instead, they said, okay, well, what is the function of this equipment? How does it work? Right? What are we looking to do with this? Taking a deep breath. They went on an adventure. They went to Home Depot. They tried a couple things. They, hey, what does this do? How can we recreate it? They got creative. They basically channeled their inner MacGyver, and they were able to MacGyver a microwave that treated the leather in the same format so that they were able to do whatever they needed to do to produce their product.
That's
and
pretty
guess how much
impressive.
it was? It was $100. They could do that 2,000 times before they purchased a big piece of new equipment, right? So it's not just about, okay, I'm going to restrict myself. I need to live in this life of need and deprivation. No, this is really where you are able to bring out your capability and drive innovation. So please don't think that Profit First is about, again, that starvation period. It's really intentional in bringing you freedom.
Well, one of the things that I really like about this is, as Mike points out, this is where the creativity starts to come in. The entrepreneur, just by nature, I think, is that problem-solving type person. And so by creating the situation that causes them to have to now come up with an alternative solution, that then gets the creative juices flowing, and that's where these opportunities come. So in your examples of one needing the computers, if the $6,000 were just readily available and indifferent to everyone, somebody would just walked out, spent it, and said no more. But because it isn't that easy to spend, and we're being a little bit more, let's say, a little bit more responsible with it, all of a sudden you start to become more resourceful, and you start to come up with alternatives, and you see things that didn't readily appear originally. So that's, I think, phenomenal. Now, just a quick comment regarding the 5 bank accounts. One of the things that I can share is, yes, you have your income, but as you pointed out, profit, owners pay taxes and operating expense. The thing that I've noticed is that with business owners, the profit, for whatever reason, it's almost like they justify, rationalize foregoing the profit. And sometimes they can say, give themselves excuses as to why owner's pay is not there this time. And it's not easy. I'm not in any way suggesting that this is a pleasant conversation to have with the family, the spouse, the children. I mean, there's a lot of things, but the one that I'm trying to draw attention to is the fact that the tax man cometh. And the fact that you weren't as profitable as you wanted to be, or you perhaps didn't earn as much as you wanted to as the owner, the tax person is unrelenting. If you haven't set aside those funds as the business is progressing, the tax man comes and expects that revenue, expects that money. And so one of the things that I think is really disheartening is when it comes time to pay the taxes and you just weren't setting aside the funds, and all of a sudden it's this big gotcha. And that tax one can really be, I think, the straw that oftentimes breaks the camel's back. And so having the profit, having the owner's pay, having the taxes set aside are hugely important, because then that's truly leaving us with what is needed to operate the business. This is what we get to play with. And like your envelope story, that example that Mike puts into the story of setting out those envelopes, it's true. When mom goes to the store and we don't have enough to buy what's in the grocery cart, we put it back and we get what we can, end of story, move on. And that's just the reality of what this really does with this plate scenario, is it really sets it up for us to, within the portions that we have, run the business.
Yeah. A piece of it is 100% portions. There's also a piece of prioritization. The other thing that is also something to be super mindful of, and again, just a simple little tip, something that you can change even yesterday or tomorrow. Prioritize. Make decisions based on where you're going to get your most nutritional value. The next thing we're going to focus on is eating our veggies first. We are American. I mean, if there's meat and potatoes on my plate, that's priority for me, right? But that's not where our nutritional value comes from. A key indicator in the health of an individual a lot of times is what percentage of your plate is vegetables and when are you eating them, right? Your likelihood to consume your nutrients increases drastically if you're prioritizing it. Guess what the most nutritious piece of a business is? It's profit. That's it. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I mean, what is the definition of a healthy business? It's a business that's profitable. How do we position ourselves to experience profitability? And the answer is by prioritizing it, putting that money aside intentionally and putting it aside first. You can't be successful if your bottom line is nothing. You can't pay off debt. You struggle to pay yourself. I mean, think about all the natural disasters the United States has experienced. We've had hurricanes, we've had fires, we've had floods, we've had tornadoes. What happens when you go 3 months without a storefront or internet? You can't pay yourself. You can't pay your team. You have no opportunity to pivot. That's freedom, having profit in your account to be able to shift in an emergency. But you opened your business for a reason. There's purpose. There's passion. You cannot facilitate to the level that you may and hope to when you set out as an entrepreneur if you aren't prioritizing profit in one way, shape, or form. And the best way, the most simplistic way to experience it, no matter what, regardless of surrounding circumstances, is to constantly choose it. And you know what? It's not something that you need to do to upset the apple cart. You don't have to take 98% of your income and only function at 2%. We're not yielding poverty. We're going to pull the rug out from underneath you, right? Mm-hmm. You can start now. You make $100 today. Put $20 into your profit account. Pick a small percentage intentionally. Put it aside. Watch it grow. It really is a game changer, and it'll allow you to do so much more with your vision, with your purpose. It'll allow you to capitalize on different opportunities. And that's what it's really about, bringing financial freedom and the ability to adjust. Because guess what? Entrepreneurship, it's a roller coaster. There's opportunities where it's really, really great. You want to be able to jump on them. There are times where it's not super comfortable. You want to have a safety net. Right? It allows us to have more freedom, but it also allows us to be healthy. This is what yields the most nutrients in our business. It is 100% our profit.
So what we're learning here is that we've got to be intentional and deliberate, but prioritize, and the prioritization is key. That's where the freedom lies, is when we're prioritizing correctly. I like that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how does that look when it comes to our bank accounts? So we have, again, our 5 bank accounts. We have our income account. Money is constantly being deposited into our income account. We are going to be intentional, and it sounds silly, because you could allocate to your operating expenses first, but we're not going to. We are going to purposely allocate to our profit first. Even again, if it's a small percent, if it's only a minor dollar amount, do the best with what you have, grow from there. Then we're going to allocate to you, the business owner, because whether you feel it or not, you are the most important person involved in what you're doing, right? Then we're going to allocate to our tax, because like you said, there's no getting away from them. They're relentless. Let's be intentional in that as well. Then we're going to look at our operating expenses, all of which are important, all of which are intentional, and the flow of the money really does count.
So one of the things that we need to learn here is that it's that percentage, and we need to figure out what those percents are going to be. But one of the things that I think we need to stress here is, how often is this transfer of the funds occurring? Is this something that you're experiencing weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? How often do you see that this is most commonly done?
So we will get there. I will let you know that we will get there. One of the things that we are kind of advocates of is adjusting in accordance to the needs of a business. You read the book, you go through and allocate. We might think it's a lot of rules and regulations, especially being from the accounting world where there are a lot of rules and regulations. Profit First is really designed to support and elevate your finances. It's also designed to support and position you to facilitate vision and dreams, right? So this really depends on what your business flow naturally is. Right? We love to function on the 10th and 25th rhythm, biannually, bi-weekly, bi-monthly. Bi-monthly, right? We pick the 10th and the 25th because you're able to see money build up into that income account, and then we allocate, watch it drain. Build into the income account, allocate, watch it drain. And that typically is a good rhythm especially if you're a service-based business.
The other question I'd have is regarding owner's pay. Do you find that more people take this as a W-2, it's their payroll, or is this a dividend disbursement that they're usually taking it as?
It's actually a combination of both. What we see most often is they are on payroll, but they're also taking draws and distributions in addition to that.
Okay.
So your owners pay, that's your W-2, and that's the beauty of the W-2. And actually one of the reasons why, I'm going to make another point as well. One of the reasons why prioritizing and removing temptation is really impactful is because a W-2 allows us to pay our responsibilities to the taxman before we even feel them or miss them, right? So if you are on a W-2, your taxes, for the most part, are taken care of. Where we find that a lot of business owners get themselves into trouble is when they are taking draws and distributions. But they're taking $10,000 out of the business and have $10,000 spent before it hits their bank account. When in actuality, they're responsible for $3,000 of that to go to their taxes. That's where we find that there's a lot of pain, even if you are on a W-2. If you're still taking draws and distributions, this is where it's really impactful, because we aren't just talking about the taxes that you're responsible for in your business. We're talking about your personal taxes that you're responsible for in your home. We want to be intentional and allow the business to support you and your household and position you to be successful in all of these areas.
Yep. Very good. Very good. I love it.
Yeah. So the next step, we got into it a little bit, but the next step is removing temptation. Everybody you talk to, they have something that just calls their name. In the food world, actually, I'm not going to lie, mine is 100% in the food world. I could eat chocolate all day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, dessert every meal, right? Same is true, with a lot of entrepreneurs. We often see our savings and we feel like we have freedom. We feel like we made it. We see our paychecks. We take all of it. It's exciting. One of the ways that we combat that natural tendency to overconsume is to eliminate temptation, whether we're removing it from our sight or we are removing ourselves from it. It really can change the game. That's why the most effective form of savings in the United States for retirement is the 401k. That money comes right out of your paycheck. You don't see it ever. And if you want to get it, you better be prepared to shed some blood and spend some time, right? It takes work to get that, but it's working, right? The W-2, same is true. You don't see your tax withholdings, your tax responsibility. It's taken care of straight out of the gate, right? It's a really effective format that works, again, with our behavioral tendencies. All of this is behavioral. It's to work with our natural wiring. And our business is no different. So in Profit First, what we're going to actually do is, while we're putting money aside into our profit and our tax, because we're wired to subconsciously rely on those resources, they yield temptation, right? And it actually cripples us from capitalizing on that innovative nature, the creative side of things. So what we do in Profit First is we actually take those profit accounts and that tax account and we put it at a separate bank. Okay. I know you probably just heard, oh boy, that's one more thing I got to do. That's so much work. I'm going to knock it right here.
We've got to remove the temptation.
Yes. It's a simple adjustment. And again, all of these things are simple. They take a little bit of effort to actually start out, but it changes the game. Again, like I said, the flow of money, it allows us to have more insight into what we're doing, but having that money removed, not having that daily reminder, because again, we're going to be looking at our bank accounts to make decisions, right? Not having that daily reminder of the cushion that we have allows us to look at our operating expenses and make stronger decisions. It yields a greater innovation, and it positions us to have more success in the long run. And don't worry, we'll spend some time enjoying that profit account. Oh, we'll really spend some time enjoying that tax account when you get to write your check and be done with it, right? But you will experience not just the benefits and the relief of knowing that you have a cushion, having the opportunity to capitalize on opportunities should you need them. But the profit account is designed to benefit you. You as the owner, you deserve to be paid well, but you also deserve to be paid above and beyond what you're expecting in your household. True profit distributions are a feather in the cap, my friend. And our goal in the profit account is to give you the opportunity to take money out of the business intentionally, strategically, safely, comfortably, above and beyond what you expect on a regular basis. And we do that quarterly. So even though we're putting the money aside into a hold account that's difficult to get to, out of sight, out of mind, it doesn't mean you won't be able to experience the benefits of your labor and your intentionality regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the things that when I'm speaking with clients is basically taking them from the job relationship that they have with their company to now they're having a lifestyle experience with their company. Because they're the owner of the business, they're experiencing more than if they just were doing the same thing for another employer. So now they're getting paid fairly for what they're doing because of the owner's pay. But now, because of the profit, they get a lifestyle that they wouldn't enjoy otherwise because they're, in fact, the owner of the business. And so I love this part because it allows, especially me with my clients, to help them realize that they do get to experience something because they're the owner.
Yeah. Yeah. And you deserve it. You are the most important piece to the puzzle in a lot of circumstances. Don't degrade it. Just because being a martyr in this circumstance, why? Don't do it. You don't have to. But it's also important too to remember this isn't just to help us function in our finances. These little things, they're exciting. You take one step in the right direction, it becomes addicting in some formats.
Yep.
Where you start to think, okay, well, how can I do this? Your mindset shifts. I mean, innovation aside, you start to think about every little piece of your business in a very different light. You start to see how you could work on your business as opposed to in it, and utilize the resources that you have in your cash flow to really capitalize on those visions. So, this is step one, but it changes the game in the long run for sure. So the next piece to the puzzle, again, we mentioned it a little bit, but it's frequency. If we are going to take the time and attention to spend all this time eating off of small plates, eating vegetables, and forgetting about cookies, we need to be consistent. That's the only way that we're really going to see results. Mm-hmm. Okay. Even more than that, we talked about the flow of money. When we deposit money into our income account, it builds. Then we disperse it into our profit, owner's pay, tax, operating expenses. It's builds. Then we disperse it. This generates a beautiful wave where we start to truly see our cash flow. And in that wave, typically is where you find clarity. The more consistent you are in your financial cash flow, the more likely you are going to be able to see when things underneath the surface are rough, right? We use the 10th and 25th method. Like I mentioned, we use a bi-monthly allocation structure. Mm-hmm. You can also do this weekly if your business is dealing with a lot of transactions. You can do this monthly if you're a little bit lower behind, or if you don't have as many transactions, or you get paid in clumps, whatever. This is where you get to have a little bit of freedom. If your payroll comes out on the 15th and the 20th or the 30th, schedule things in accordance to your business. The key is consistency. Pick a time where you're watching that money build and release. This is where clarity comes in. Speaking of another axiom, people, when they're talking about their businesses, cash flow is my biggest problem. Cash flow is actually a direct result of other things that are happening in the business. It's actually, this rhythm puts in place a active alarm system. Our cash flow is a direct result of things that are happening underneath the surface. It's kind of like a check engine light on your car. That comes on, okay, yeah. Oh, shoot, the fuse is blown, right? That's got to be the fuse. No, you turn it off again, that's going to come on in a week because there's actually something wrong. The beauty of this is watching money come into your business. You can truly see what income is. If there's a lapse in what you're typically expecting, it triggers you to look at your billing system. Oh, shoot, somebody was out. We didn't send out these invoices. That's why my cash flow is funky, right? Let me get those out immediately. There's an issue in your operating expenses, right? Oh, I thought I was supposed to have more in there. Where'd it go? Oh, well, it looks like my internet company increased my rate and didn't let me know. I should probably call them and negotiate, right? These little rifts in our cash flow, we only identify them if we have consistency and clarity in them. It allows us to address these underlying problems before they become permanent and a lot more difficult to solve. So the rhythm and the frequency and the consistency, they are equally important in our financial freedom.
So one of the things that I think is key here is the fact that you're saying we want to be consistent and have rhythm, because these transactions, as they're moving to and from the accounts, we want to have it in a deliberate routine. And if we have it in that deliberate routine, we're going to gain strength from the fact that it's consistent. So I like what you're teaching here about the rhythm of it all. It's not so much when, it's just the rhythm is important.
So, of course, in all of this, the key is really to get started, but stick with it. If you are going to open your profit account and allocate just a minor percentage, do it, but do it consistently, do it regularly, be intentional in it. Take the next step once you're ready, right? If you're going to open all the bank accounts and allocate, stick to that rhythm, be consistent in it. And this is why I'm here today, actually. You know what? We talked about axioms. We talked about the world being flat, and here, this is my favorite slide. I spent a lot of time on this. But if the world was flat, we wouldn't be here. You know, the axiom that we cannot make it past this point on the planet, it could have crippled us. But somebody decided to not just challenge it, but do it, right? It opened the world to free trade. Business all of a sudden existed, right? And exploration evolved. And here we are on the United States of America, doing our thing, living our wonderful lives. And the same is true with our finances. You know, just because, you know, we love what we do and we have the money in our expense account to do it, doesn't mean that that's the best way. You know, even if we take one small step in the right direction, it's eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Our goal is for every single person we come in contact with to be the exception to that statistic. Forget about making it to 5 years. Let's thrive for 5 years. So my purpose today, again, was to share with you a couple things that you could do starting now that are simple, extremely effective, and allow you to yield huge results with minimal steps, if you will. But I wanted to give you a couple of resources. So Profit First Banks, I have a list of locations that we have found to be Profit First friendly. Again, it varies based on branch, but I'd love to share with you what we have. I also have an overview that will bring more insight to the concept, give you something to refer back to, breaks it down a little bit more as well. But I want to encourage you to take a look at our website, profitfirstprofessionals.com. You know, there's more resources on there. There's more information about us. You know, again, I'm here for the purpose of sharing and giving you more insight into financial freedom. Don't be afraid to utilize me. I didn't put my email on here, but if you have questions, if you're looking to learn more, please don't be afraid to email me. Erin at profitfirstprofessionals.com is where you can contact me. And this is level one. You know, our next webinar is going to be with the intention of taking this information to another level by really specifying it to your unique experience, to your unique position, identifying how healthy you really are using the Profit First method and diagnostics, and then strategize a little bit more from there. So I hope you'll join me in that.
This is perfect. And you're right. This is a journey. And Erin, I appreciate you kind of taking us through this process. And one of the things that I'd like to just kind of add on here is, first and foremost, as accounting professionals, I hope that you can see that this obviously applies to you in your own business and what it is you can be doing to be deliberately profitable within your own company. But secondly, I want to encourage you to consider how you could actually be a Profit First professional yourself, becoming a certified Profit First professional, and in doing so, literally take this to your clients and become for them their profit advocate. One of the things that we teach here at Universal Accounting Center is becoming what's called a profit and growth expert. And the Profit First program is essential to that. So definitely take some time to consider how not only this affects you personally as you run and operate your business, but more importantly, how you could also for your clients help them enable all these tools and systems to really put profit a priority in their companies as well. So Erin, what I'm going to do is in the description down below, I'm going to provide those resources that you made mention of. And then also for everyone listening in, one of the things that we're also going to do here is give you a chance to get a free copy of a book called In the Black. It's basically 9 principles for profitability that goes along very well with this. And in doing so, give you a chance to take advantage of basically applying those principles in your business and becoming, as I stated, a profit and growth expert. So Erin, were there any final thoughts that you'd like to share as we wrap this up?
No, I just really hope that you all have the opportunity as professionals, as people, to really capitalize on your profitability, on your business, on your vision, and have the freedom there with it.
Perfect. Well, down below, look at the link that says Become a Profit First Professional, and let's help you actually take advantage of this opportunity to become, for your clients, the expert they need you to be. So, Erin, thank you for being here. And remember this, if it's about accounting, it's universal. Take care, everyone.
Woo! Thank you, Roger.